1220. The Mongol army dealt a crushing blow to the Khwarazmian Empire, thanks to which the Mongols managed to establish control over the entire Central Asia. It should be mentioned that despite the fact that the Khwarazmian Empire was quite powerful from a military point of view and controlled, in addition to Central Asia, the territory of modern Iran, it was not able to cope with the onslaught of the Mongols. As a result of the attack of the Mongol army of the Khwarazmian Empire was defeated, because of which Ala al-Din Muhammad II was forced to flee and died on the way on one of the islands of the Caspian Sea. However, his son Jalal al-Din Mangburni, who became the new ruler, did not plan to give up. He hastily began to gather the remnants of the Khwarazmian army in the south to try to defeat the Mongols and regain control of the territory occupied by the Mongols. Having received news that Jalal al-Din was hastily gathering forces, Genghis Khan sent 10,000 soldiers under the command of Shigi Kutuk to find and kill the last Khwarazmshah. The battle between the Mongol army and the army assembled by Jalal al-Din took place in September 1221 near the city of Parwan. By this time, Jalal al-Din managed to gather about 15,000 soldiers under his command. To increase his chances of victory, Jalal al-Din placed his archers on the rocks so that they could rain down arrows on the enemy from relative safety. It should be mentioned that Shigi Kutuk did not expect to encounter fierce resistance, which was his fatal mistake. The Mongols, caught in a hail of arrows and faced with a numerically superior enemy, were in confusion, which allowed Jalal al-Din to inflict a crushing defeat on them. Thanks to the victory, soldiers from the surrounding territories began to gather under the banners of Jalal al-Din, which allowed him to significantly increase the size of his army, which he planned to use to liberate the Khwarazmian Empire from the power of the Mongol Empire. In turn, Genghis Khan, having learned about the defeat of his troops, was furious, so he decided to personally head the main army in pursuit of Jalal al-Din. Having begun the pursuit, the Mongol army soon overtook the army of the last Khwarazmshah on the banks of the Indus River. In turn, Jalal al-Din, realizing that the battle was inevitable, built his army on November 24, 1221, in a place convenient for defense. The main forces, which were personally led by Jalal al-Din, were located in the center of the army. The left flank of his army consisted of Turkic horsemen who were located on a hill that allowed them to control the surrounding territory. Jalal al-Din's right flank consisted of Afghan horsemen who took up positions between the center of the army and the river. In total, under the command of Jalal al-Din, there were no more than 35,000 soldiers, most of whom were actually militia and not professional soldiers. The Mongols lined up opposite Jalal al-Din's army, dividing their forces into three and forming them in a crescent shape. The center of the Mongol army was commanded by Genghis Khan himself. The left flank was commanded by Ogedei, and the right flank by Chagatai. In accordance with the tactics of the Mongol army, the left and right flanks were supposed to surround the enemy army in order to subsequently destroy it. In total, under the command of Genghis Khan, there were about 50,000 battle-hardened warriors who could boast not only excellent training, but also iron discipline. The Mongols were well aware that the enemy had taken the most advantageous positions for defense, since the hill and the river protected their flanks of the Khwarazmshah's army and did not allow the Mongols to use their numerical advantage to encircle and defeat the army of Jalal al-Din. The battle began early in the morning. The Mongol army immediately launched an offensive, planning to force the enemy to flee with a powerful blow. Nevertheless, despite the power of the Mongol cavalry, they were unable to break through the enemy's formations, which were located in positions perfectly suitable for defense. A bloody hand-to-hand fight ensued, during which the Mongols did not abandon their attempts to break through the enemy's formation. It should be mentioned that due to the inability to bypass the enemy's flanks, the Mongols were unable to use their numerical advantage. The army of the last Khwarazmshah resisted fiercely, and soon the Afghans on the right flank managed to begin to press the left flank of the Mongols under the command of Ogedei. Realizing full well that the battle was not going as he had originally planned, Genghis Khan sent part of his forces to help the right flank in order to strike the enemy's left flank, defending on the hill. Since the battle was in full swing, Jalal al-Din did not notice the maneuver of the Mongol army. That is why when the troops sent by Genghis Khan attacked the left flank of the army of the last Khwarazmshah in the rear, it turned out to be truly unexpected. Thus, having received a blow from the rear, the left flank of Jalal al-Din's army, sandwiched on both sides by the Mongols, began to suffer serious losses. Since the left flank of the Khwarazmshah's army could not stop the onslaught of the Mongol army from both sides, very soon he was forced to descend from the hill. Thus, the Mongols had the opportunity to attack the center of the Khwarazmshah's army from two sides. After the defeat of the left flank of the Khwarazmshah's army, it became obvious that the battle was lost. But Jalal al-Din, despite the persuasion of his entourage, refused to retreat and continued to fight. Having regrouped after occupying the hill, the Mongol army attacked the flank of the army of the last Khwarazmshah. The Mongol cavalry descended from the hill at great speed and attacked the enemy's flank. The attack by the Mongol cavalry caused confusion in the ranks of the enemy army and partially disrupted its battle formations. Nevertheless, the army of the Khwarazmshah continued to fight, but at the same time, under the onslaught of the enemy, it had to retreat back. As losses grew, the morale of the army of the last Khwarazmshah began to rapidly fall, and very soon the soldiers of Jalal al-Din stopped resisting and began to flee. Jalal al-Din himself, along with his guards, was also forced to hastily leave the battlefield and was able to avoid capture. In other matters, the Mongols did not plan to release Jalal al-Din and sent two Tumans in pursuit of him. Genghis Khan himself, together with the main part of his army, returned to Samarkand. However, Jalal al-Din was lucky, and despite all the attempts of the Mongol army to catch him, he was able to escape from his pursuers and find refuge in the Delhi Sultanate, where he tried to gather his warriors who managed to escape after the battle on the banks of the Indus River. After the defeat of the remnants of Jalal al-Din's army, the entire territory of the Khwarezmian Empire came under the control of the Mongol Empire. Having established his power throughout the entire territory of the Khwarezmian Empire, Genghis Khan, at the head of most of his army, returned to the Mongolian steppes. At the same time, a 20,000-strong army under the command of Yebe and Subutai was sent through the Caucasus to Europe to explore new territories and identify targets for new campaigns. Thus, on the territory that previously belonged to the Khwarezmian Empire, there were practically no Mongol troops left, which of course Jalal al-Din decided to take advantage of. Having learned that the Mongol army led by Genghis Khan had returned to the Mongolian steppes, Jalal al-Din realized that the right moment would come to act. At the end of 1223, he, at the head of a small army, returned to Iran to take advantage of the absence of the Mongols to try to restore the Khwarezmian Empire. In Iran, Jalal al-Din united with the forces of his brother Ghiyas ad-Din, who, after the departure of the Mongol army, rebelled against the power of the Mongol Empire. Since in Iran, Jalal al-Din was opposed only by detachments of local rulers who recognized vassal dependence on the Mongol Empire, he was able to quickly establish control over the city of Kerman and surrounding territories. Understanding perfectly well that it was necessary to act quickly before the Mongol army returned to the region, Jalal al-Din, suppressing the resistance of local rulers, rapidly expanded the territories under his control. Very soon he managed to establish his power in Hamadan and Isfahan, and also capture most of the provinces of Fars and Khuzestan. Inspired by the success, Jalal al-Din continued the offensive, and already in 1225, having defeated the Eldeguzids' army, he established control over the city of Tabriz. Thus, a significant part of the territory of the Khwarezmian Empire, who were previously part of the state, came under the control of Jalal al-Din. Since the Mongol army did not appear in the region, Jalal al-Din decided not to sit idly by and began to fight with his neighbors, planning to expand the territory under his control at their expense. It should be mentioned that the confrontation between Jalal al-Din and its neighbors occurred with varying degrees of success, and it is not known how it would end. But at this time, the Mongols turned their attention to the previously conquered region. The fact is that in 1229, Genghis Khan died and his son Ogadea became the new ruler of the Mongol Empire, who was surprised to discover that on the territory of the previously conquered Khwarezmian Empire, Jalal al-Din created his own state, which did not recognize vassal dependence on the Mongol Empire. Of course, the new Mongol Khan did not plan to lose control over the territories that he considered his own. Therefore, in 1229, he sent 30,000 army under the command of Shormaghan, which was supposed to defeat Jalal al-Din and return Iran to the rule of the Mongol Empire. The Mongol army invaded the territory controlled by Jalal al-Din in 1330 and reached the city of Ray without encountering serious resistance, after which it began siege operations. Since the city's garrison was quite small, it would not have been able to resist the Mongol army and capitulated rather quickly. After capturing the city of Ray, the Mongol army quickly marched towards Tabriz, which was the capital of the state created by Jalal al-Din. Having learned about the approach of the Mongol army to Tabriz, Jalal al-Din, knowing full well that he clearly did not have enough strength, left the city, planning to gather an army to try to oust the enemy from the territory of his state. Meanwhile, the Mongol army under the command of Shormaghan, without encountering serious resistance on its way, reached the outskirts of Tabriz. The garrison of the city tried to resist, but the Mongols quickly blocked the city and began to siege it. A few weeks later, the garrison of Tabriz, realizing that there was no help for it from anywhere, and that there were clearly not enough forces to independently confront the Mongol army, was forced to capitulate. Meanwhile, Jalal al-Din, having left his capital, tried to quickly gather forces to try to recapture the lost territories. But he was unable to do this, since few people wanted to openly oppose the Mongol army, which was considered invincible at that time. After establishing control over Tabriz, Shormaghan divided his army into separate detachments and sent them to expand the territories under his control. Mongol troops quickly established control over northern Iran, which is why Jalal al-Din was forced to retreat and died on the way, unable to gather enough forces to confront the Mongols. After the death of Jalal al-Din, the only city that openly opposed the power of the Mongol Empire was Isfahan. In 1231, after establishing control over all of northern Iran, the Mongol army reached the outskirts of Isfahan. The local garrison did not plan to surrender as it hoped, relying on the powerful fortifications of Isfahan to hold back the enemy's onslaught, but this was not possible. Using siege engines, the Mongols were able to destroy the city's fortifications and take Isfahan by storm, after which the city's garrison was destroyed. In addition, the Mongols killed a significant part of the city's population, as revenge for the fact that they dared to resist. Having learned about the fall of Isfahan, as well as how the Mongols punished its population, no one else in Iran dared to resist the Mongol army, which is why all the territories that had previously recognized the power of Jalal al-Din returned to the control of the Mongol Empire. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel and click on the bell so you don't miss new videos.